So it's really good. We weren't sure how many people we're going to have today. So we're like, do we have time to do roundtables? We probably don't have time to do roundtable with every single person, but I'm really happy to see the turnout. So I will just at least introduce myself so you'll know who we are. My name is Nikki Woods. I'm the Institute Director for the Institute for Education Research, which is called TIER, and I'm also an education scientist at the Wilson Center. And I'm also a member of the UHN Women Steering Committee. So I'm very happy to be co-hosting the panel this morning, or this afternoon now. Jacqueline.
Hello, everyone. Jacqueline Silvera, Director of Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Accessibility, and Anti-Racism at UHN. My pronouns are she and her. I have been at UHN for a while now. I'm a mother, a daughter, a sister, and friend to many. Welcome. So we are not scripted on this topic. We are looking at intersectionality, and we're going to land on the term, what it means, and how it connects to being you. So this is the definition that is pretty well used. As of 2015, Oxford included it, and it defines intersectionality as the interconnected nature of social categorizations, race, class, and gender being the initial three that were identified. And this is all regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. So I guess we would ask, what does this mean? And we all heard the moving, beautiful, powerful narrative from Chika, who is, words can't define, but it is beautiful. And I think as we bring ourselves to this work, you know, oftentimes I refer to myself as a vintage woman. The generations play quite an important factor on this discussion around intersectionality. And what it really means is all the categories that are constructed by society tend to influence how we are seen, how we are treated, and the spaces that we occupy. So the comment before I switch over to Nikki is I would like us all to, one, acknowledge intersectionality refers to that experience that is simultaneous, that is based on race, class, gender, sexuality. It folds in nationality, but it's not limited to that. It really takes into consideration all distinct forms of oppression, classism, xenophobia, sexism, and they are mutually dependent and intersecting, and at the same time merge to create this grand toll of oppression that we carry. Nikki.
So one of the things, thank you, Jacqueline, we really wanted to do today is chat with all of you about our experience, but also collect from you and discuss with you and have an opportunity for everyone to participate. As Catherine has said so beautifully at the beginning, UHN Women is for everybody. It is intended to be grassroots, and it's not intended to be kind of top down. This is what we shall discuss as part of intersectionality. So I've had an opportunity the last week or so to really think about intersectionality from my perspective and what are the components of my identity that I bring to work every day, and really who am I at UHN, who am I at home, and how often and how not often are those the same person. And so what are those different pieces of my identity that I want to bring forward? And so for my own introduction, yes, I am a Black woman. I am a Trinidadian, even though my parents tell me I'm not really Trinidadian because I was born here, but I still tend to try to bring that as much as possible as part of me and who I am. I am also a mother and a scientist. And these are the parts of my identity that I try to bring forward as often as possible at UHN. So we would love to hear from you as we make some traction on our strat plan. You can either pop it in the chat, you can unmute and speak, but we'd love to hear what are some of the aspects of your identity that you want to either bring forward at UHN, that you want to be reflected in our strategic directions moving forward. And how can we as UHN women, the way we'll lend after this, how can we as UHN women work to help people embody all aspects of themselves and recognize that discrimination, that oppression can also happen in ways it's not just about gender. So yes, we're called UHN women, but we want to make sure that we are addressing all of the systems of oppression and disadvantage that we may be experiencing. So I will pause there. And Azadeh has jumped forward. I can always count on Azadeh. Azadeh.
I don't know if it was a good thing or bad thing, but anyways.
Always
Thank
a
you
good
so
thing.
much. That was excellent. So actually, it's a very good question to ask people, what do they recognize as their elements of intersectionality, or what is important for them? For me, being an immigrant or the first immigrant with no family here is probably the biggest factor for myself that could have, that I need help about or affected my career and performance. A lot of time for me, being a woman wasn't that much of a barrier than being a first generation or only immigrant here with no family was adding to my capacity, to my challenges and trauma. So I identify myself as an immigrant or new immigrant to Canada, and then as a mother and as a person that have the privilege of knowing people with mental conditions and the challenges that they go through, like more of a care provider. And those are the important things those are the things that I think are challenges for me, but at the same time, they are sort of source of my power, because I can connect with these dimensions and have a better understanding of those challenges and situations if I'm trying to be more compassionate to make Brian happy.
Thank you, Azadeh. Anybody else? I'm just checking my chat box here.
I'm looking also. I think is there a hand? Barbara.
Hi, I seem to have challenges with the chat box. It's not sending, so I'm sorry. But so I also reflect on the fact that I'm an immigrant to Canada. I'm a Scot. I'm an oncologist. I'm a mother, and I'm a medical educator. So all of these roles reflect the different pixels of my life. Some are bigger than others, and some, have more of their challenges than others. But I think, I also, as Azadeh said, the immigrant part and being the only people here has been a challenge as we move forward in our lives. So I think I really resonate with that as well. Thanks, Azadeh.
Thanks, Barbara. Can I ask the question on how you've been able to navigate through, the idea of being the only person here, not necessarily having that support system, and, reflect on what Chika spoke of, being first generation?
Me, Jacqueline, or everyone?
If you will, about everyone.
So for me, I think I was fortunate when I came here. I was already fairly well established as a mature in my career, in that I was already fully trained as an oncologist. So I had that kind of confidence. And as Azadeh said, I didn't really ever face a lot of discrimination from a sexism perspective. And I came to a department which was incredibly collegial and supportive. So I work in radiation oncology, and I think that was something that really marked my transition to being in Canada, that a lot of the people in our department stepped up and, made us feel very welcome. My partner's also, he's a radiation oncologist. We actually both stayed together, but all our families are elsewhere in the UK, predominantly in Scotland. And that's, that's interesting. And I actually, just to kind of add to that, I'm a mother, but my children are also, my husband was born in Hong Kong, and I'm Scottish, so we have Scottish Chinese children, which, is another reason why I actually chose to stay in Canada, because I think it is easier to bring up children who are mixed race in Canada than it is to would mean to have to go back to the UK. And I think that reflects, and I love seeing it in the schools, that everyone accepts you as you are. It's not, you're not segregated into a section, you're a Chinese or you're a, which is just lovely. Everyone accepts there's a multitude of backgrounds. And I think that's also reflected in the healthcare as well in many areas. But it's certainly something that was a choice that I made in staying.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think for everybody on this line, let's challenge ourselves and ask, what would it take for every single individual to have that experience? You know, that the idea of radical belonging, acceptance, and being taken as you are. What would that look like? What would it take? Farah.
Thank you. I thought I'd just jump into to share some reflections and thoughts too about experience as a woman leader at UHN, that through the course of career, as I've tried to balance all the things that come with being a mother, I think for me has been a lot of the focus, and where I've really tried to put that forward. And I've been flexible. Oh, I've been lucky to be able to advocate for different arrangements where I was able to really focus on this leadership is important, but so is what I need to do at home, and have that flexible. But it's not always been easy, and it's required a lot of that advocacy and you know, a real commitment to the things that I identified as important. And when I think about the impact of, you know, what it would have been like if I didn't have a boss who was also a woman, who if I was perceived differently because of factors that had nothing to do with me, but more other people's perceptions, racism, all of that, and how that would have impacted things. And I think it's to go to your question, Jacquie, what it really makes me think of is that it's not only important to have policies that allow people to be flexible and allow a solution for everybody to really put the values ahead, right? Put values of the organization, put the values of what that person needs, but how important it is to also have systems to ensure that they're actually implemented equitably, and that it's not based on one person or one, you know, a culture in one area that allows it to happen.
Beautifully said. Absolutely. Nikki, do you have any thoughts? Is there anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, so I think I would connect what Karen's added in the chat as well, because I think what is possible, what is required for everyone to have this type of experience is explicit knowledge around social capital. The assumption with a lot of our adaptations at work, we assume that if you ask for an adaptation, you'll receive it, if we're just flexible. And truthfully, I think it takes explicitly acknowledging that not everyone has the social capital to get what they ask for. Not everyone has the social capital to know that they could ask. And so these types of flexible work arrangements, the supports that Chica mentioned needing, that everybody often needs, it should be a given that they will be offered. Like the assumption that you will ask and then receive is so fraught because it requires the social capital to know that you could ask and the social capital to demand it. And not everyone has that. So I think that as we work in UHN Women, we have to think of ways to make sure that these opportunities are afforded to people without the requirement of them having the social capital to receive them.
You know, you remind me of a quick quote by Audre Lorde that says, "There's no thing as a single issue struggle, because we do not live single issue lives." And, you know, as you said that was the words that just popped in my head. So extremely powerful. And I think what it means is that we have to revisit how this is administered and the expectations that we place on individuals to navigate through. Asade, I see your hand.
So one of the things that helped me to move through like being an immigrant woman, or like the challenges of that, and many times the feeling that I'm hopeless in terms of what's happening and out of my control, was the feeling of the belonging. And the way that it came through was through feeling that I can do things to make a change. I mean, for me, I was trying to channel that to idea activities and some of my research. But I think one of the things that would be quite excellent for the UHN women doing is to provide that channel for the people to feel belong to UHN by taking action and doing things that they care for. Many of the people could be really don't know how to do that. They like to do something, but they don't know how to do that. And providing that sort of capacity for the people to channel their energy to make a change will be so helpful for the people, at least for me, to feel that I belong and I can do something that helps me with all the things that I feel I have no control over. Or that was my way of dealing with the challenges.
Thank you, Asade. Rebecca and then Brian.
You're going before Brian. Okay. So I guess one of the things I was reflecting upon listening to everyone sharing is this concept of like being proactive, because everything within healthcare is traditionally kind of structured in a reactive format, and sometimes, although it's with good intentions, a lot of the structures that then result are again a reactive response to something negative has happened. So I really appreciate a conversation like this and the question, what would it take to have that radical belonging? Because I think that's more of the conversations we need to have, because everyone has had some negative experiences in their life. And so, ultimately what it takes is, yes, adaptability, acknowledgement, but also respect. And so, not only having these conversations, but doing it in a way where it's not throwing around the terms we hear all the time, like cultural competency or things like that, but taking it to that next step. And anyways, that's all I was thinking about.
I totally agree. The Powell Center, Berkeley, radical belonging is the direction we need to take. Brian.
Jackie, I see Dr. Aru with her baby online, and I think about the things that you haven't been able to say or ever show about yourself in the past. And by the way, he's very cute, wonderful. But this whole notion of you don't say you're pregnant, etc. And I think about our Indigenous colleagues who don't want to tell anyone they're Indigenous. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I know what it's like to be gay, though. And there's lots of people online that have many pieces of themselves they don't bring to work. And I wonder, Jackie, if part of the answer to your question in the last one is the goal is that everyone feels they can bring every part of themselves to work. Maybe one of the dreams of intersectionality is bringing everything. And there are some things that are harder to bring than others.
I tend to agree with that, and I can think of my long career where many of my age grades would do simple things like not wear their hair natural, not speak a certain way, the code switching that would take place. And even to this day in 2022, there's a slight hesitance before you speak in a certain way because there is so much associated with it. So, I think that this is an important conversation, but as we talk and we speak to the issue of intersectionality, we need to also acknowledge that it doesn't always mean being totally accepted with your full intersectionality. That mask sometimes still is there. Hard statement to make, but true. So Nikki, not going to self-identify you strong Trini woman, which I love. I'm EC gradient partially also, so there we go. I look at you and I think about your walks through UHN, health, medicine. To Brian's comment, is there anything that you would add?
I think that, the challenge is always making sure that you can be comfortable bringing yourself forward, and not everyone has that comfort, and everyone should. And the fact that you might not be comfortable wearing your hair natural or doing, which I had that experience for a very long time, and I deliberately go as natural as humanly possible at all times. So you have those experiences, and the point is that you shouldn't have to have the courage to bring yourself to work. It should be supported for everyone. So it should not be an issue of courage. And I think that would be the marker of success on this, is that you don't have to have the courage to bring these things forward.
Absolutely. So this thing that we all call and know to be erasure, has to be also at the cornerstone, because that should be a part of the elimination. So, as we conclude, I think, are we coming to the point where we're finished? This was only an hour. It feels as if we're just getting started.
I know, we're 1 minute over.
Oh dear. Here's a recommended read for everyone. Nikki, any last words?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize we were completely over time. Apologies, everyone. We did just feel like we just got started. And I just saw that Anila had a comment she wanted to make. I'm so sorry we couldn't get to it. But thank you to everybody for participating. And again, we ran out of time today, but the intent was to just start a conversation. We will come back, we will continue it. So I'm not actually that worried that we ran out of time, because we are going to get to everything. We have a slide up right now just letting you know of our upcoming opportunities. So if you want to get involved within the process and structure and system that is becoming UHN Women, we want everyone to be involved. So right now we've just had the steering committee, but there's lots of opportunities. So we have our email where you can email us if you want to get engaged. There is going to be a roadshow coming around to everybody,
Yes.
unit by unit, after the Synapse go live. So that will be your other opportunity. And you can always tweet and share any idea that just pops into your head, especially after listening to the inspiring presentations this morning. So if you just want to share broadly outside of UHN, you're welcome to tweet and tag us there as well. And that's all I have. Jackie, did you have anything else to add?
I want to say thank you, everyone. Stay well, live your lives, enjoy, and more to come.